Good evening, everyone. Oh, excuse me. My name is William Iannuzzi. I'm president of the Board of Education, and we are about to reconvene the public session of the meeting. Colleagues, can I get a motion and a second to reconvene the public session of the meeting?
So moved. Castellano Minaya.
Second, Brooks.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Could we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Colleagues, can I get a motion and a second to accept minutes of the Board of Education regular meeting held on January 7th, 2024, and accept minutes of the Board of Education special meeting held on January 21st, 2024, as submitted by the clerk and secretary to the Board of Education?
So moved. Castellano Minaya.
Second, Ross.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So first up on our agenda tonight is Board of Education announcements. Do any of my colleagues have any announcements they would like to make?
Very quickly, I would just like to say that this is School Counselors Appreciation Week, and I want to give a huge moment of gratitude to all of our school counselors throughout the district who are working every day to support our students' mental health, social well-being, emotional well-being, and also supporting our staff. Thank you, school counselors, and to all of our clinicians who are working together with teachers and families in support of our students.
Thank you, Ms. Castellano. Any other of my colleagues have any announcements? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to the superintendent's update. Dr. Reynolds, I'll throw it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, through the board trustees. Good evening, everyone. Please forgive my voice. I'm a little bit under the weather. This evening is a very proud evening for me, and we'll get into why in a moment. I would like to start my updates with reminding everybody that all district offices, schools, and buildings will be closed on Monday, February 17th, 2025, in honor of President's Day. All schools are closed on Tuesday, February 18th through Friday, February 21st, 2025, for midwinter recess. So to all of our families that are in the audience, get ready. All schools will be reopened on Monday, February 24th, 2025. Now is where my level of pride comes in. Recent executive orders relating to immigration and ending what is referred to as radical indoctrination in K-12 schooling have understandably raised questions and concerns within our school system. I want to assure you that our schools remain safe havens of learning and growth, where every student is valued, welcomed, and supported. While restrictions on non-local law enforcement officers, such as the Department of Homeland Security or Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or better known as ICE, conducting enforcement actions at schools and other sensitive locations have been lifted, our commitment remains that every student who lives in the City School District of New Rochelle is entitled to a free public education in our schools. To reaffirm this commitment, I want to emphasize the following. The City School District of New Rochelle schools do not collect information on students' immigration status or the immigration status of their parents or guardians. State and federal privacy laws, including the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, also known as FERPA, strictly prohibit us from sharing student personal information without parental consent. Law enforcement officers will not be granted access to non-public areas of our schools, our students, or student records without a signed judicial warrant, court order, or valid subpoena that has been thoroughly reviewed by myself and our legal counsel. To ensure preparedness, all school district employees will receive clear guidance on what to do if DHS, ICE, or other non-local law enforcement agents visit any of our buildings. I also encourage all families to update their emergency contact information with their school offices, including secondary and tertiary emergency contacts. That means a third person in place of somebody who is not you. And make sure that their addresses and phone numbers are also updated. Just this yesterday, the New York State Department of Education issued a statement to all preschool through higher education school leaders stating the following. New York's Constitution guarantees a system of public schools wherein all the children of this state may be educated. Our state only began to take that command seriously in 1954, when the Supreme Court held that separate schools for African American children were inherently unequal. Since then, Congress has protected and prioritized historically neglected students through legislation such as the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. These laws require and recognize and celebrate personal, social, and economic differences. They are models of strength through diversity. Recent executive orders issued by the president are antithetical to this tradition. They are also ineffective, as the president has a constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. This means the president cannot decide which laws to enforce or funds to distribute. It's also why two federal courts immediately enjoined the president's attempt to freeze federal funds. The Board of Regents and the Department of Education remain committed to the inherent dignity and worth of every child. As such, we being the New York State Department of Education, denounce the intolerant rhetoric of these orders. Our children cannot thrive in an environment of chaos. They need steady and stable leadership that we will endeavor to provide. Please be informed that the Board of Education and I stand committed to our stated district vision, mission, equity vision, and core beliefs. The City School District of New Rochelle is a trusting, collaborative, and innovative high-performing educational organization that challenges, celebrates, and nurtures the whole child. CSDNR is committed to fostering a safe environment and providing a high-quality education that is authentic, inclusive, collaborative, and prepares the whole child to engage in a diverse world. CSDNR values the uniqueness of each individual in our community by honoring differences as strengths. We foster an appreciation for one another by cultivating a safe and inclusive environment that embraces our diverse identities. We are committed to ensuring a fair and equitable educational experience for every student by empowering each one intellectually, socially, and emotionally to be influential global citizens. We believe in the pursuit of equity, excellence, inclusion, and growth to drive academic outcomes. We believe schools should be safe, joyous places of learning. We believe students thrive with empowered families, school staff, and community partnerships. We believe the diversity of our schools is a gift. We believe every student and staff member is worthy of intellectual, social, and emotional respect and support. We believe in providing student-driven, varied, rigorous, and innovative learning experiences. We believe in educating and developing the whole child, fostering a sense of belonging, and incorporating student voice. We believe our staff is central to the success of our mission. And we believe multiple perspectives, histories, cultures, and hopes of our students, families, and community at large are to be honored and respected. As a school community, we must stand together, united, strong, and compassionate. We are one New Rochelle. Our diversity is our strength, and what affects any one of us affects every one of us. Thank you for your continued support and partnership. Together, we will work to uphold our mission of fostering a safe environment and providing a high-quality, authentic education that is inclusive, collaborative, and prepares the whole child to engage in an ever-changing, diverse world. And with that being said, happy Black History Month. February is Black History Month. American historian, author, journalist, and the founder of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, Carter G. Woodson, was a scholar whose dedication to celebrating the historic contributions of Black people, and it led to the establishment of the Black History Month as we know it. It's marked every February, and this has been in existence federally since 1976. The 2025 Black History Month theme, African Americans and Labor, focuses on the significant role that labor has played in shaping the Black experience throughout history. So to all who celebrate, happy Black History Month, and for all of you in our audience, we hope that you will walk with us in this partnership to ensuring every one of us is safe here in New Rochelle. With that, Mr. President, I turn it back over to you.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Reynolds, and thank you for your advocacy for our students. Before we move into the Trinity presentation, I just want to give my colleagues and myself the floor. Tonight, the board is passing a resolution called Affirming the City School District of New Rochelle as a welcoming district for all students. And I just have some remarks I would like to make about it before we begin our meeting. So tonight, we gather here not just as educators and leaders, but as advocates for the fundamental right of every child in our community to access a safe, inclusive, and welcoming education. This resolution that we are passing tonight is not just a statement of policy, it is a reaffirmation of our unwavering commitments to the students and families that we serve. The City School District of New Rochelle has always prided itself on being a place where diversity is celebrated, where every student, regardless of background, feels safe and supported in their pursuit of education. This resolution ensures that we continue to uphold these values by protecting the rights of all students, regardless of their immigration status or that of their families. Education is a right, not a privilege. As affirmed by the United States Supreme Court in Playa v. Doe and reinforced by New York state law, every child, regardless of immigration status, has the right to attend school. Our role as a school district is to foster an environment that encourages learning, free from fear, discrimination, or uncertainty. In recent weeks, many students and families in our community have expressed concerns about their safety and future. It is our responsibility to stand firm in our commitment to them, ensuring that no child's education is disrupted due to circumstances beyond their control. So by passing this resolution, we are reinforcing critical protections. We affirm that our schools are a safe and welcoming space for all students. We establish clear guidelines to protect student information and prevent unauthorized access by outside agencies. We commit to providing guidance and support to our staff in the event of any immigration enforcement inquiries. And we empower families with access to legal and community resources to ensure they feel supported and informed. This resolution is not about politics. It is about people. It's about our students, our families, and our community. And it is about ensuring that every child who walks through our doors knows they belong here. So tonight, by passing this resolution, we send a strong and unwavering message. New Rochelle schools are and will always be a place of learning, safety, and opportunity for all. Thank you. Do any of my colleagues? Yep, Ms. Brooks.
I'll keep it short because both you and Dr. Reynolds said so much so eloquently and so powerfully. I just want to say, and being in this school is always one of my favorite meetings. I'm looking forward to performances and hearing from the amazing staff here who works with kids from every walk of life, from families with every walk of life. And I hope that by passing this resolution today, by sharing this message to all of our families in our community, that not one child will miss one day of school of that education that they are entitled to under the law, because that's the magic. That's what happens here in all of our schools across our district, including this one. And I couldn't help but reflect as I was thinking about us passing this resolution today and making these statements about the pledge that we made where we said we would stand indivisible, and we will stand indivisible in support of all of the families in our entire community here in New Rochelle. And I'm so very proud to be here and excited to see what the kids and the staff have cooked up for us shortly.
Ms. Ross, then Mr. Pickett.
Yes, Will and Dr. Reynolds, you guys basically said everything, and you said it very eloquently. I would just add to that in that as a board member, that is one of the things that I signed up for, was to ensure that all of our students in our community have access to a great public education, and we stand firmly behind that. Thank you.
Yes, I'll keep it quick. And thank you to Dr. Reynolds and Will for those great words. First, I want to say that it is, of course, doing the right thing, but the board is also following the letter of the law in terms of privacy, in terms of all of the regulations on the federal and state level. So the board was following the law prior to January and will continue to follow the law in terms of protecting students' rights, and those rights extend to every student, no matter where they come from or their status. I'd also say, as a community, we can never let our schools be places where our students are going to be treated like potential criminals, no matter what the reason is given that for that period. So I ask also that, because the board can only do so much, the board can't really do much at all, really, and the superintendent can only do so much within the confines of the campuses. I think that we all should come together and stand as one to say, if all of these things are going on outside of our district, they're going on anyway. We have control of what's going on in our communities and in our schools. So of course we're going to say that we're going to follow the law and protect students' rights, because the law has not changed. Thank you so much.
Ms. Lewis?
I just want to add a couple words for our students. As you watch the world unfold around you in the years to come, from now through adulthood, continue to ask why. Continue to ask questions. Learn about your civics. We talk about civics all the way into our high school, right? But you can learn civics as an adult. You can start asking questions now, right? And so as you get older, as you learn what civics is, as you learn about your history, as you learn about the state laws, as was just mentioned, whether you leave New York State and you live in another state, or whether you live anywhere across the world, understanding the laws that apply to you are going to follow you the rest of your life. So if you feel as though you might not understand what's going on these days, you can turn to adults that are near you, turn to a trusted adult, turn to your teachers, ask questions, and start there. It was not too long ago where the Department of Education on a federal level was even formed. It's relatively new, right? And you might not know that, right? And even on a local level, running, right? My ancestors were not able to vote all that long ago. And now we can sit before you on board. So happy Black History Month. I just want to reemphasize to learn your history, learn what's happening currently, because it's going to help you in the future.
Ms. Castellano-Manea?
I also wanted to talk directly to the students of our district. And I want to share a poem with you by Luis Valdez that my students and I read every week, called In Lakesh. Tú eres mi otro yo. You are my other me. Si te hago daño a ti, if I do harm to you, me hago daño a mí mismo. I do harm to myself. Si te amo y respeto, if I love and respect you, me amo y respeto yo. I love and respect myself. And I want you all to know how much we truly love you and believe in you. And we will do everything we can together with the teachers and staff and administrators of this district to ensure that you can come to school every day knowing that you are loved and that you are safe.
I just wanted to do a little shout out to Webster School for their rendition of The Wizard of Oz. It was colorful and shining with multiple Dorothys and lions and tigers. I mean, not tigers, but anyways. But it was a wonderful play to see so many of our kids all have a chance to shine on the stage. I think it's really important for kids, our children, to feel seen. And part of the creative arts, it just brings out a kind of confidence that grows exponentially. So I was really proud to see our young people create this really great production. And it was very inclusive, and Dorothy kept changing and the total kept changing, and it was just really fun to see everyone have a chance to be part of such a significant play.
Yes, good evening, New Rochelle. Um, It's an honor and a privilege to be with you here tonight. And I'm just thinking that my father's side of the family migrated here to New Rochelle from Virginia in the late 1800s. And then my mother migrated here from the South in the 1960s, the two great migration periods for African Americans. And with the turn of events, people trying to turn back the time on diversity, inclusion, and equity, and including everyone in education. I was frantic, I was hurt, I was scared. And then my elder said, "My dear, we've seen this before, and we're going to keep on keeping on." Actually, I went to this school, and this is the place where I decided I would become a teacher. And I've been an educator for 30 plus years. And it's here in the New Rochelle Public Schools where I received a world-class education. And my commitment and the commitment of my colleagues is that current students and future generations of students receive the same opportunities. So we're going to keep on keeping on, and we're going to make sure that all of our families, our children, our workers, our community have a world-class education and have the support of every one of you and all of us and people of good intent. Thank you.
Thank you, all my colleagues. We're going to move on to our next item on the agenda, which is our discussion items, and the first one being our Trinity presentation. So, Dr. Reynolds, I'll let you set the stage, and colleagues, if we can go down to the front row. Please take your microphones.
Great, thank you. So as our board members transition down to the audience, I wanted to say another good evening and welcome you to Trinity Elementary School. This is a school on the sound, and we're about to hear some sounds on the sound. And if you have not heard Mr. Hildebrand, you're about to hear some sound on the sound on the sound. So I would like to welcome up to the microphone the leader of Trinity Elementary School, Mr. Michael Hildebrand, who's going to take us on the exploration of all the greatness that occurs here.
He's the boss, so I have to give him a chance to go and sit down, okay? And I know, Dr. Roberts, that the clock is ticking. I know. Wonderful. Well, good evening, Superintendent Dr. Reynolds, Board President Mr. Iannuzzi, board members, parents, teachers, students, and special guests. My name is Michael Hildebrand, and it is my distinct honor to welcome you to Trinity Elementary School this evening. Buenas noches, Trinity! Buenas noches, un aplauso, familias! Today, families, we are so excited to share a glimpse into the Trinity magic that occurs here at Trinity Elementary School every day. We will also take the time to recognize some incredible educators that are receiving tenure this evening. Then we're going to spend some time sharing several of our curriculum and instructional initiatives that aim to improve our students' early literacy skills and cultural awareness. We'll end with a look ahead to the work that is planned next to grow these initiatives and beyond. Now, as you know, our work begins with our vision and our mission. But tonight, I'd like to highlight our equity vision. As you can see, The City School District of New Rochelle values the uniqueness of each individual in our community by honoring differences as strengths. We foster an appreciation for one another by cultivating a safe, inclusive environment that embraces our diverse identities. We are committed to ensuring a fair and equitable educational experience for every student by empowering each one intellectually, socially, and emotionally to be influential global citizens. While our district's vision and mission are focused on providing high-quality education for our students, it's our equity vision that directs our attention to the importance of considering the uniqueness of each learner and how we must strive to embrace each student's differences as strengths, to empower all students to become engaged, informed, and empathetic citizens. Now, our district's vision and mission come to life with the hard work and dedication of our leadership team and our entire faculty and staff. As we share our work this evening, we feel that it's important to highlight the strength in our diversity. We are a beautifully diverse school of 841 of the most glorious scholars you could ever imagine. Not only is our school racially, ethnically, and socioeconomically diverse, we are diverse in learning styles and unique capabilities. Approximately 20% of our students are learning English as a new language. That means that they are well on their way to being multilingual. Almost 20% of our students have individualized education plans to highlight their unique capabilities and ensure that we are challenging and supporting them in unique ways. Our Trinity student community is a diverse group of learners as evidenced by those numbers. This information helps us to make informed decisions when selecting curriculum resources, designing instruction, and creating programs that facilitate home-school communication and support. But as you know, our students are so much more than a number or a statistic. And tonight, we're gonna feature some of our amazing, unique scholars and superb educators that are engaging in the magic. We're gonna begin with celebrating the performing arts. So Trinity, please help me in welcoming our Trinity Elementary School marching band. Uh-oh. Drummers, that was truly, truly magical. And now it's time to celebrate some of our superb educators. So, I would like to welcome up our literacy coach, Miss Ann-Lenore Zielinski, along with our assistant principal, Miss Bridget Berturi, and our 5th grade scholar, Jaden Santos, to assist me in celebrating our educators. All right, teachers, are we ready? Teachers, are you ready? You all look so fancy. Are you ready? Okay, perfect. Wonderful. So at this time, I would like to invite up Miss Bracamonte, Mrs. Collins, Miss Abramo, Mrs. DeVito, and Miss Sanchez to the stage. Can we hear an applause for our educators? Drummers, are we ready? Okay. Now, our first tenure recipient this evening is on assignment in Los Angeles, so she could not be here tonight, but we're still going to celebrate her. So, our first tenure recipient this evening, Miss Adrienne Bracamonte. Again, Ms. Bracamonte could not be here this evening, but we are still going to celebrate her. Ms. Bracamonte is one of our teaching assistants here at Trinity Elementary School, and she works side by side with Ms. Jenkins in our 3-4 special class. Ms. Bracamonte began her career at Trinity as a one-to-one special education aide, and her love of supporting students was evident on day one. She quickly obtained her teaching assistant certification and joined the Trinity team the following year. Ms. Bracamonte connects with students with unique learning styles. She is particularly skilled with supporting students with very complex needs. Her gentle yet patient nature helps navigate some of the most challenging situations. Students are eager to learn with Ms. Bracamonte. I am pleased to recommend Ms. Adrienne Bracamonte for tenure with the City School District of North Shore. And again, Ms. Bracamonte is on assignment in Los Angeles. The Grammys went very late the other night. Now, next up for tenure this evening, Mrs. Rachel Collins. Drummers, that was excellent, excellent. Mrs. Collins is currently a member of our 3rd grade team, but also began her career in a different role here at Trinity as a leave replacement. Over the last 4 years, and we were just reminiscing today, over the last 4 years, Mrs. Collins has taught 3rd and 4th grade. When visiting Mrs. Collins' class, you will see a structured, supportive, and flexible learning environment. Her ability to provide a nurturing class community where all feel welcome is critical. The sense of family that she creates in her classroom is felt immediately. Mrs. Collins has an extensive classroom library that's been personally curated over the years, and it continues to grow. Mrs. Collins makes sure that her classroom library provides opportunities for her students to see themselves, to see others, and experience new adventures through literature. Mrs. Collins instills a love of reading. And I dare any one of you to come to a Trinity event and not run into Mrs. Collins, because she's there all the time. All the time. Mrs. Collins also jumps into every opportunity to learn and grow professionally. She is a member of the Mercy University Westchester STEM Ambassador Program, and she, along with many Trinity colleagues, helped Trinity to earn our distinction as a Mercy University STEM School of Distinction. As you can see that banner over on the side there. It is my pleasure to recommend Mrs. Collins for tenure in the City School District of North Shore. Drummers, are we ready? Okay, next up for tenure this evening, Miss Allison Abramo. Miss Abramo is another member of Trinity's third grade team. I'm so proud to share that Miss Abramo began her journey as an educator here at Trinity Elementary School. Allie has grown as an educator each and every year. She meets regularly with our literacy and math coaches to design engaging lessons for all of her diverse learners. Particularly in math, she's developed a deeper understanding of the constructivist approach in order to design lessons that encourage mathematical thinking and problem solving. Ms. Abramo has designed and redesigned her classroom with a mix of traditional and flexible seating to ensure that all of her students are set up for success. Ms. Abramo also participated in Mercy University's Wipro program to support STEM education and earn us that beautiful distinction. It is my pleasure to recommend Ms. Abramo for tenure in the State School District of North Shore. My goodness sakes, next up for tenure this evening, Miss Alana DeVito. Miss DeVito is our art teacher, and in her role, she is solely responsible for teaching art to all of the 841 scholars from kindergarten through 5th grade. In a 6-day cycle, Miss DeVito teaches 40 art classes. 40 art classes. And here at Trinity, art is a hands-on, active experience. The planning and preparation that's required to accomplish this is enormous. And over the last 4 years, Ms. DeVito has achieved this flawlessly as she has established art as a part of the culture here at Trinity Elementary School. Her lessons are well prepared and organized and flexible to meet students' needs. And Ms. DeVito has brought art to life here at Trinity, as evidenced by the beautiful artwork that you see here celebrating Black History Month right now. But check out all of our hallways because art is alive and well under Miss DeVito's direction. It is such a pleasure to visit her class. It could be clay, it could be chalk, it could be paint, it could be watercolors, pencil, ink. Our scholars are diverse, creative artists as well because of Miss DeVito. So I am so pleased to recommend Miss Alana DeVito for tenure in the City School District of North Shore. My goodness sakes, last but certainly not least for tenure this evening. Wait, let's try that again. Okay, scholars? All right. Last but not least for tenure this evening, Miss Yesenia Sanchez. Excellent job, drummers. Excellent job. Miss Sanchez is a born and raised New Rochellian and a New Rochelle High School graduate. That's right. Let's clap it up for Miss Sanchez. Now, Ms. Sanchez is currently a member of Trinity's kindergarten team, and over the last 4 years, Ms. Sanchez has taught kindergarten and 2nd grade. As a teacher of our youngest scholars at Trinity, Ms. Sanchez creates an environment where children feel safe, and they're excited to learn. I always have to ask Ms. Sanchez for permission before I can even enter because I always mess everything up. I cause chaos every time I go in there. But in Ms. Sanchez's classroom, students are able to meet their goals. Ms. Sanchez's classroom climate is structured and supportive and flexible. Her ability to provide a nurturing class community, all while having clear expectations, is evident. She regularly attends grade-level professional learning, and she offers insight into her students' thinking. Ms. Sanchez is one of many bilingual educators here at Trinity Elementary School, and she regularly participates in school functions and activities and provides family STEAM and math in Spanish. I am truly honored to recommend Ms. Sanchez for tenure with the City School District of North Shore. Can we hear another round of applause for our tenure recipients? Are we ready, drummers? Okay, can we hear another drum roll for our tenure recipients? Un aplauso, Trinity! Congratulations, teachers. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. So much. Yes, you're allowed to leave the stage now, but don't go anywhere. Just continue to sit and enjoy, but congratulations. Let's get another round of applause for our teachers. Now, this year, Trinity's focus has been directed at students' proficiency, increasing students' proficiency, and decreasing disparities among all of our student groups in literacy. Our district strategic roadmap is our guide for decision-making here at Trinity. We address each of these elements to ensure that we're providing a quality education experience for our students. As we zoom into objective A and B within student learning, we as a district have made a commitment to the New York State Education Department's framework around culturally responsive, sustaining education and our K-3 initiative on effective practices in literacy. As you know, ensuring a welcoming and affirming environment, which is principle 1, that's always been a priority here at Trinity. Years ago, we established a social emotional learning committee to design and develop a plan for our entire school community. As a school team and as a dad, we knew that kids needed to feel safe in order to learn. Our ever-improving social emotional learning plan is complete with a scope and sequence that we created in collaboration with Rethink to ensure a welcoming and affirming environment for all. As we utilize our strategic roadmap, we have added Principle 2, high expectations and rigorous instruction, and Principle 3, inclusive curriculum and assessment, to our areas of focus. Now, Principle 2 has been a driving force behind our focus on Tier 1 literacy instruction. That is literacy instruction for all of our scholars. Principle 3 has truly come to life through our Equity Curriculum Committee work that's hyper-focused on our literacy instruction. This committee, led by our literacy coach, Ms. Anne-Lenore Zielinski, with members of all grade levels and multiple departments, were tasked with this challenge to curate curricular resources aligned with ELA standards that were easily accessible to teachers. Teachers' jobs are hard enough. They shouldn't have to go through battles to make sure that they have the resources they need to do the magic that they create each and every day. And I think Scott Hartle and Christina Riley said it beautifully in their article when they declared a high-quality curriculum offers students texts and topics that contain mirrors, windows, and doors. Mirrors that affirm and celebrate their own identities and cultures, windows that help them learn about and understand others, and doorways that present them with opportunities to be agents of change. Choosing the texts and the topics that will reflect students' lives and help them to see into others' lives is an enormous responsibility because it affects students' sense of belonging in their learning community. And here at Trinity, everyone belongs. I'm gonna say that again. Here at Trinity, everyone belongs. Now let's give that up, scholars. Everyone belongs at Trinity. And now I'd like to welcome up our literacy coach, Ms. Anne-Lenore Zielinski, to share a bit more about this work.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Hildebrand and Ms. Mattori, for this opportunity to discuss Trinity's Tier 1 literacy instruction. New York State has given guidance to all school districts throughout New York State through the New York State Literacy Briefs and recently released literacy instructional best practices. Two components of those best practices are phonics and phonemic awareness. As educators, we know Tier 1 instruction should include letters, sounds, letter-sound relationships, segmenting, blending, decoding, encoding, and spelling patterns, just to name a few. New York State has affirmed our approach to instruction with this guidance. Our kindergarten through third grade program includes all of these components and more to provide rigorous, equitable instruction for all our young learners. These foundations will provide the building blocks for lifelong readers and writers. In the fall of 2024, Trinity implemented the Hegarty Bridge to Reading program, which combines daily phonics and phonemic awareness lessons in one foundational program. Teachers gathered in PLCs to unpack the rigor of the lessons and formulate a plan to organize materials, share resources, look at assessments, and track student progress. During the first Superintendent's Conference Day, teachers participated in professional learning around the how and why of the lessons. Let's take a look at some of our scholars engaging in this important work. As Trinity teachers continue on this journey, they are constantly examining data and student progress. Using our STAR fall benchmark data, we can see where students started the year and closely monitor how they are progressing with each benchmark assessment. This data can help us inform instruction and help us make adjustments to our curriculum. Our next steps include digging deeper with classroom visits, PLCs around student work, and differentiation. Using the district's recently developed Tier 1 toolkit, teachers can look at strategies to support English language learners and special needs students in Tier 1 instruction. It is our hope that we are developing strong readers and writers in the early grades so that they can make a smooth transition from learning to read to reading to learn. This will empower our students in the elementary years and beyond with endless opportunities. Now we will hear from Mrs. Mattori about the exciting work happening at Trinity around Principle 3, Inclusive Curriculum and Assessment.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Ann Lenore, for highlighting the incredible work happening in our classrooms around developing strong readers and writers. As you've just heard, the practices shared align with Principle 2 and demonstrate foundation of Tier 1 instruction. Building on that, I'm excited to focus on our equity curriculum, which serves as the driver of Principle 3, Inclusive Curriculum and Assessment. What sets this work apart isn't the name of a program. It's the intentional practices that we're using to engage and support all students. While much of Tier 1 focus has been on K2, this next segment will highlight the practices and the work happening across K5. This is critical to advancing our district's equity vision and ensuring meaningful learning experiences for every student. One of the key elements of Principle 3 from the NYSID framework is fostering the ability for students to engage with multiple perspectives. This means helping them learn about themselves while also gaining a deeper understanding of the perspectives of others, which is a central driver of Principle 3. Tonight, we will share how students are engaging with texts that not only help them understand themselves, but also the world around them. These opportunities encourage students to think deeply, consider different perspectives, and reflect on fairness and kindness in their everyday lives. By exploring diverse perspectives, they begin to see themselves as empowered individuals who can make a difference, both in their own lives and in the broader world. While the district began officially focusing on Principle 3 this school year, we are proud that at Trinity, we started exploring this work a couple of years ago. Tonight, we want to take you on that journey with us. This work is about honoring the whole child, celebrating their identities, helping them develop a strong sense of belonging, and empowering them to see themselves capable of making a difference. At Trinity, we realized that our curriculum needed to create more opportunities for students to truly celebrate who they are and to cultivate that sense of belonging where they grow into change agents. This is where the journey began 2 years ago, and we are thrilled to share how it connects to the district's larger vision. It's going to be a quick but meaningful drive, so stay with us. This slide here highlights how we're addressing key areas of focus within Principle 3 through our equity curriculum. To support these efforts, we've created standards-aligned units of study that incorporate embedded formative assessments and culminate in meaningful capstone projects. These three components work together to provide students with opportunities to engage deeply with the material, reflect on their learning, and celebrate their growth. As you can see, Mr. Hildebrand will help us navigate through the links on this slide. It's so great to be able to get him to move in this way. Mr. Hildebrand will help us. No, you did not. No, you didn't. Will help us navigate through the links on this slide to show examples of how these practices come to life across our K2 and 3-5 mini units. For example, these units intentionally connect to culturally significant months, such as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Black History Month, Women's History Month, ensuring that students are exposed to diverse perspectives and voices. As you can see, each element, from formative assessments to the culminating projects, has been thoughtfully designed to support both academic rigor and social-emotional growth. So now that we've explored the equity curriculum, and we've explored how the equity curriculum is structured and aligned to Principle 3, let's take a moment to see it in action. Here are our students engaging with these meaningful and inclusive learning experiences, celebrating stories, ideas, and perspectives that connect to their lives and inspire them to learn about the world around them. These photos beautifully capture the joy, creativity, and growth happening in our classrooms every day. And now I'm going to hand it back to our principal, Mr. Hildebrand, who has a wonderful surprise to share involving our amazing students.
Thank you so much, Mr. Murturi. Now, while teachers now have a curriculum guide to begin the work of creating culturally responsive learning experiences, our work is still in progress. The district has provided us with this curriculum assessment review framework, which we call the CAR framework, to help us to evaluate curriculum resources in all subject areas using these lenses: identity, skills, intellect, and criticality. All of our teachers have engaged in this resource examination protocol to support informed decision-making so that we can develop culturally responsive learning experiences here at Trinity Elementary School. All of our teachers have utilized this protocol to examine Alma and how she got her name. During our teachers' professional learning community sessions with Ms. Alinsky, they examined the text using the protocol, and we've included some samples of their work on the slide, and our board members are getting an opportunity to take a look right now. But of course, this is Trinity, so we like to take it one step further. And we have engaged our scholars in this work as well, because student voice matters. Our students have been taught how to evaluate texts through the lenses of identity, skills, intellect, and criticality in a way that's accessible for younger minds. This image shows how students completed this work using a reflection sheet to organize their thinking and demonstrate their understanding. Please help me to welcome some Trinity Scholars!
Hi, I'm Faria, and I'm a fifth grader. Please help me welcome Gianna, Charlotte, Shauna, and Sebastian to share their findings when they examined Alma and how she got her name.
Hi, my name is Shauna. This book taught me never underestimate yourself or your name. Each person's name is important and is a big part of identity. It helped me understand myself and other people's names and backgrounds. It shows people's ancestors or culture.
Hello, my name is Charlotte. This book helps me practice skills I already learned because my class learned about character traits. Each of Alma's names tells us about one of her relatives and their character traits. For example, her great-grandmother, Esperanza, hoped to travel and cross the 7 seas. That tells me that she was adventurous. Alma is as well. That was a character trait that I inferred.
Hi, my name is Gianna, and this book helped me to realize that each name has a meaning. Never make fun of somebody else's name because it's a big part of their identity.
Hi, my name's Sebastian. This book showed fairness by showing she didn't just take her father's family's names, but her mother's family's names too, which shows diversity throughout her name.
My name's Faria Bukola Nila, and I'm unique.
My name is Shauna Madeline Rivera-Vateri, and I am wonderful.
My name is Charlotte Madison Feemster, and I am skilled.
My name is Gianna Addison Lee, and I'm intelligent.
My name is Sebastian Jude Kalingo, and I am fair.
Can I get another round of applause for these scholars? As you all can see, Trinity Scholars are artists, they're authors, they're performers, they're mathematicians, they're scientists, they are critical thinkers. We are committed to increasing our student achievement and by doing so, providing mirrors, windows, and doors. We will continue to analyze our data, strengthen our professional learning, and expand the implementation of Heggerty all the way through 3rd grade to continue to build capacity because our scholars deserve it. Right, scholars? Now, it is my honor to once again congratulate all of our tenure recipients this evening. And it's my privilege to thank Mrs. Murturi, Ms. Zielinski, Mr. Stewart, all the members of our leadership team, our teachers, teaching assistants, social workers, psychologists, school counselors, speech pathologists, special educators, nurses, security guards, monitors, clerical staff, and custodial staff, because none of this magic would be possible without you. But lastly, scholars, thank you all of you, for a beautiful performance this evening. Yes, indeed. Thank you for that beautiful performance, and thank you for your critical thinking. Thank you for your hard work, even when the work is hard, and thank you for reminding each and every one of us that everything you do matters. Can we have another round of applause for our scholars? Superintendent Dr. Reynolds, Board of Education, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hildebrand. My name is Corey Reynolds, and I am impressed. So usually the board president starts it off, but I'm going to date myself. How many people harken back to hearing when the students would come on Reading Rainbow and give their perspective of the book report. That's all I could think of. So for those of you who know what Reading Rainbow is, please clap. If you don't, I don't need to know you. So I'm going to turn it back over to the board president, who will lead us through some questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reynolds. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments?
First of all, you all were amazing. Thank you so much for your performance. Thank you so much for your performance and performances, and congratulations to all of you who received tenure this evening. So just reflecting back on earlier this evening and the conversation we were having. So my first name is Adina, my grandmother was Aldina, and my middle name is Carmen, my grandmother was Carmen. Neither of them were born in the United States. And I carry their names with me, and I think about their journey and the impossible that was made possible for me to be here. And I just think it's so important that we honor our histories and those who came before them. And so I just read this beautiful book. Thank you for sharing it with us. And I just loved hearing all of your names and all of your stories. And I look forward to seeing you in the marching band in the high school. I look forward to seeing your artists, and thank you to the art teacher in PAVE at the high school. I just think that you all are magical, and I'm so grateful that this district and everything that you do here at Trinity are preparing students for the great adventure that's ahead. So thank you, and this is my last board meeting at Trinity, and I'm just really moved and happy to be here. So thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, come and stand up here. You're not here. Come here.
Hi. First and foremost, congratulations to our teachers. Well deserved. And just a shout out to our artists and our musicians. And I also started. I started in band when I was your age, and I did band all the way through high school. And so it might not feel this way, but the friends that you make now, the friends that you make later, they're all going to be a part of your story, just like the book that you're reading is a part of your story. So every time you go to school and you're learning something new, you're learning a new person that's next to you, just remember that this is the base of all the things that you're going to do to come. Trinity is a special place in my heart, Mr. Hildebrand. You know I love you very much. And so I will say that the examples that you give now are very clear on how it connects to our high school. We go to schools all around New Rochelle about what they're doing later. And to know that you guys have a very strong foundation here just warms my heart.
Thank you.
Well, I can go.
Thank you, Mr. Hildebrand and your team, and congratulations to all of the teachers, educators who received tenure, and thank you to all of our students. I was in your same place. I attended Trinity Elementary School, and it was a magical place. And I see that it's still a magical place. So it's something that you'll always remember, and it's something that'll always be dear to your heart. And you have many sisters and brothers who will be with you for the rest of your lives. And thank you very much for sharing your intelligence, sharing your musicality, and just sharing who you are. Thank you.
First, I just want to say thank you to our tenure recipients. Congratulations. You know, me and Ms. Sanchez actually graduated New Rochelle High School together, so we were classmates. I have to say, I am always surprised when I come to Trinity. Because, you know, you have things in your mind, what you think is going to happen. Like, I thought we were going to see what Mr. Hildebrand was socks he's wearing today. That's what I thought was. There we go.
It's a picture of my son who's a freshman in college now. Yes, indeed. Yeah, and that's his little cap and gown on his head.
Oh, that's great. I can check that off the list. I know. I thought, Ms. Vittori, I thought we were going to have a breathing exercise together.
I'm the opposite, no socks at all.
But I was very impressed and surprised, and I did not see where this was going, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And to piggybacking off Miss Brooks, you know, my name is William Lewis Vincent. Lewis was my grandfather, Vincent was my other grandfather. But I found out later in life that his name actually, he wasn't born Vincent. He was Canio Vincenzo Di Napoli. And he changed his name because it was too Italian. He wasn't getting work, and so he wanted to Americanize it. So I want to thank you for teaching these types of lessons because it's important to understand where you come from and how important your name is. It's funny because my cousin just had a kid and he named him Canio. So it's like kind of going full circle back to where we were. So I just want to thank you and thank your entire staff and team for teaching these types of lessons. As I said, I'm just very impressed. Thank you.
Just say this is my first meeting on the board here at Trinity, and it was a wonderful.
I hope we didn't traumatize you. I am so sorry. Did you prepare him for this? I hope you did.
No, but I just want to commend you and everyone here. It was quite an experience, and I wish all of the other schools good luck following in your footsteps because this is going to be hard to beat.
Thank you for the presentation. Congratulations to the folks getting tenure and to play off of this name because my name is Roshni Adhin and growing up my name means light. It was actually given to me by my grandmother and it was a very difficult name for my teachers to be able to pronounce, for my classmates to pronounce growing up, and so I think it's a beautiful thing and it was wonderful to hear, and I forget which student it was, might have been the first one, talking about it is such a part of your identity and something to be proud of. And so such a wonderful lesson and always love the presentations from your team. And congratulations to you guys for the work that you've done and continue to do. And really, I really love how you're always calling these kids scholars because it's something that they will take with them. And when you talk about words matter, it really is such an important way for them to think about themselves. So thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Reynolds, you want to wrap it up?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. So I'm going to do something a little bit differently tonight. I'm going to talk to our scholars because I need you to understand something that took place tonight. You had an opportunity during a time in our history where student voice is being taken away to use your voice. We were able to hear about you. We were able to hear your story. We were able to hear you perform your talents. And we were able to hear about how you are learning. I want you to, you'll forget me. You may not forget my beard, but you'll forget me. But I don't ever want you to forget that you have a voice. And your voice more than matters. Your voice is the reason why we're all here. And it's our job to support your desires and needs through your voice. So make sure you continue to make yourself heard. Okay, ladies and gentlemen? You think you can do that for me? If you do that for me, I'll give you the week off the week after next. Okay? All right. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a good evening, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Can we hear another round of applause for our 10-year recipients and our scholars?
So we're going to ask our students and our faculty and staff for Trinity, transition your way home. We have another day tomorrow ahead of us. We are going to transition to our next presentation. So as our students are packing up and leaving, I'm going to ask if our Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations, Mr. Carlos Leal, as well as our, yes? Okay, as well as our Business Administrator, Ms. Joy Mike, would please come up to the podium and prepare our next presentation.
Mic check 1, 2.
As we complete our transition this evening, we are going to revisit our budget through our budget process. Tonight, we wanted to present to the community some additional information that we've received very recently. Tonight is a continuation of our conversation as relates to the budget that we will propose to our board and to the community. Tonight will not be the last time you're hearing from us. As a matter of fact, this is budget work session number 3, if I'm not mistaken, and we do have a proposal to our Board of Education that we will add additional meetings that are not currently on our schedule so that we can have fuller conversations as it relates to the budget. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Leal to walk us through budget workshop session number 3.
Thank you so much, Dr. Reynolds. Thank you. So good evening, Dr. Reynolds, Board of Ed, those in the room and then those online. Am I not speaking loud enough? I do this all the time. Okay. Is that better? I will just kind of go through the initial first slides, which kind of get to the why we are here this evening. Of course, it's our students and it's the mission and vision of the district. And so you've seen this slide before, but we've bolded the budget variables and budget snapshot because that's where we're going to focus our discussion this evening. So while our guiding principles continue to be our vision, mission, our students, and the roadmap itself, we're gonna take some time today to really just talk about those variables and those snapshots. Again, aligned to our vision, our mission, our equity vision statement, which is very meaningful, more so now. And then our core beliefs as a community. And then again, all of the work aligned to our strategic plan that continues to guide our work. And of course, the whole child. So that being said, you've also seen these slides, but they are a bit updated. So in terms of budget priorities, we are currently evaluating staff needs and requests. We've engaged in conversation with building administrators and directors. Continue to review, evaluate retirements and then prioritize needs. Evaluate grant-funded positions and programs, and then starting to talk about how do we reassign resources across the system to continue to provide high-quality education. In terms of the budget activities, we've been in ongoing conversations with our administrators across the district. We started that conversation in October, really, but in November, more formally. Just this afternoon, we continued a conversation with all the district administrators, and we'll continue, again, we have another meeting on Thursday morning scheduled. The district cabinet receives the requests from these administrators. We discuss, we go back and forth, and it's been a dialogue more so than anything. The district cabinet then will finalize those priorities, staffing allocations, vacancies requests, facility renovation requests, the unbudgeted programs and initiatives, and then the budget core alignment with the New York State requirement system that we've been talking about for about 2 years now, needing to readjust in the ways in which we are budgeting so that it's much more efficient and appropriate. And then the staffing allocations to align with the building and program needs, which again align back to our vision and mission as a system. So here are the budget variables that we wanted to make sure that are clear for everyone as we start to delve deeper into this conversation. I believe the last time we met, I said we're going to start having more robust discussions, and this is day 1 of that. So the Consumer Price Index has trending now at 2.9. It's a little bit less than we reported the last time. Allowable levy for the growth factor is 2%, excuse me. State aid, we were waiting for some information from the state, so we now have some indication. So our foundation in education has actually increased by 2%. And we'll break that out so that everyone can see that clearly. The Rockefeller report was commissioned, and a series of recommendations were made to NYSED. One recommendation that they took of the many was to replace the 2000 census data So in the formula itself, they were using outdated information. And so those calculations really weren't reflecting our current student population and our context. And then, of course, the building aid, completing and ongoing capital projects, and where do we stand with that? Do we want to go out for an additional proposition this year? We are in conversation right now of a very small one to accommodate the needs at the high school. For those who are not familiar, we do not own about 6 feet around the football field. The city owns that, and so we're talking now about how we can then own that particular property for the cost of $1 and then take over that property and make it safer for all. And then where do we stand with the IDA grant funds? You'll see in a few slides, we were using those allocations to cover some of the costs. And what does that mean for us if those are rollover dollars and they're no longer accessible? And then the Westchester County sales tax, and then the appropriated fund balance. All right. Additional things that came to some clarity. The New York State teacher retirement system rate, there was a decrease of a little bit more than 0.5%. The local retirement system rate increased 1.3%. And then the anticipated health insurance costs, which we've talked a bit about, but where they have landed as of 2/3, is 7.5% to 10% for active employees, and then a 0.5% to 10% for retirees. We still have not gotten the official word from our insurance carriers on our increase. We're having that meeting on Monday, but right now we're trending based on conversations with our other business partners or others in the roles that we play, that it's going to be around 13 to 17%. Which is just a tad less than last year, but still nonetheless an increase. Then, of course, the utilities fluctuations, the collective bargaining agreements, our responsibility to those, and then looking at transportation and other contractual renewal increases. So, you've seen this slide before. This one we're just bringing back so that we have context as we engage in today's conversation. Where if you look at last year, we went for 3.95%. So we, went over. Sorry. And we netted about $8 million in taxes as additional income. And over the years, again, this shows the pattern of where prior to 2019, we were going with whatever the actual tax levy was, and we went out with that particular tax levy. And then during the COVID times, we did not do that, and that was the pictorial representation. So again, we've seen these numerous times, but again, just to set the stage. That being said, we want to start a conversation a little bit different this year than we have in the past. In that, what we've done in the past is usually come forward and say, hey, we're going to move forward with these particular expenditures, and then we said towards the end of that entire conversation, here is the proposed tax levy for the year. This year, we'd like to do is actually reverse that conversation just a bit and talk about revenue first. So prior to that, it's important to understand our current staffing scenario. So this is one way in which to look at that. So categorically speaking, under the current staffing, where it says building and instructional staff, that includes teachers, teacher assistants, counselors, clinicians, and that current staff number is about 1,160, and we currently have 8 vacancies within that categorical line. The next would be at building administrators, principals, assistant principals, house principals, deans, department chairs, 39, and currently no vacancies. Building operations and support, these would be individuals at the building level. Clerical support, custodians, food service, lunch monitors, registered nurses, and teachers' aides. There are 467 of that support staff, and currently we have 24 vacancies. District administrators, directors, assistant directors, executive directors, coordinators, consultant supervisors, we have 35, and currently there are 2 vacancies. And then district operations and support, clerical support, finance and HR support in the particular offices, laborers, trade workers, technology support, there's 139 employees, and currently there are 13 vacancies. And then on cabinet, there are 5 individuals and currently no vacancies, for a total of 1,845 employees and current 47 vacancies. And as I indicated in terms of the revenue, again, we usually started the conversation with expenditures and then we talked about revenue. This time around, we're gonna talk about revenues first. And that is so that we understand the conversation that we're going to be entering into based on what the state is providing to us in terms of state aid, and what parameters we have to work within in this particular school year. So there's a lot on this page, and I apologize for that up front. But hopefully the color coding of the items up on top give you a little bit of a context to follow along. Okay. So this is your state aid summary. The first, I'm gonna say like the darker avocado color that says actual 23-24 state aid, those are the numbers for that particular year. The year that we're currently working in, the governor's proposal for 24-25 is the second column, or the first column in that gray category, with the percent change and the dollar amount increase from the previous year and what the actual was. So what they propose usually is not the final number because there are some adjustments that are made when the dollars settle. That being said, if you kind of categorically look all the way down, actual aid, is there a pointer on here? No. If you go to the far right where it says actual 24-25 student state aid and go straight down that column, you'll see that our aid was 90,539,741,000. Whereas the year before was 80,892,017. If you move forward with me to the dark or the darker blue on the far right side, the current 25-26 governor's proposal is coming in with state aid at 67,429,720, which is that foundation aid, that first line, which is a change of only 2%. And I'm saying only 2% because if you look at the previous years, the increase was 12.6%. So we weren't expecting what the state shared with us, by no means. And it caught us off guard. What that actually means would be an increase of 1,322,151, which is really, truly not a lot of money. If you work your way down these categories, which we can break down for you, but in terms of the foundation aid, there's building aid, transportation aid, BOCES aid, public excess and private excess costs, which really are, the public is like if we send students to other districts or BOCES, and then the private would be residential placements, and that all falls into the category of expense-based aid in that particular band. And then underneath that, the software aid, hardware aid, textbook library, which is all instructional material aid, which is also bold. And then the charter school transition aid, which we don't receive, because the threshold for there is actually 2% of our total budget, or 2% our student population, and then other operating aid. So in general, when you're looking at this, compared to what we received last year, the number is drastically different. That is the first variable that we need to take into consideration as we're thinking about our current revenue coming in. I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna take a step back so that Joy can jump in and talk a little bit about the tax formula to understand the next portion of the conversation.
Okay, thank you and good evening. The tax cap formula, which is the next slide, is provided by the Office of the State Comptroller, and it's really the equation that districts have to follow, and also municipalities, to determine what the maximum allowable tax levy can be for that school district or municipality. So this is what the formula looks like. It's multiple steps, and hopefully we have sort of summarized what that means for New Rochelle. The calculation that you see in front of you has 3 columns to the right. The green column is the 2023-2024 school year. The middle blue, light blue column is the 2024-2025 school year, so the year that we're currently in. And then the far right column is the 2025-2026 school year, which is the proposed draft budget that we are in the process of developing. The equation overall starts with the prior year tax levy. That is your starting point, so that's that top line. The next section is the tax-based growth factor. That is a measure of your brick and mortar growth within that municipality. That is provided by the Office of Real Property. So you'll notice in 2023-2024 school year is 1.0016, and for the 2025-2026 school year, it is 1.0029. So you multiply the prior year tax levy by that number, and then you add in the base year, the prior year pilots. Pilots are payment in lieu of taxes. That is a set agreement that is made between the municipality and different sort of corporations or developments. And that is payment in lieu of taxes, meaning that that parcel or group of parcels is not part of the assessment roll. So prior year pilots for the 2025-2026 school year is $4,081,394. You add that number in, and then you subtract out on the next line the allowable capital exclusions for the previous year. So just bear with me, we're going to get to the end. So there's an exclusion for capital work that's being done or capital expenditures, and you have to take that number out. Then you will multiply that by the allowable levy growth factor. So Mr. Leal spoke briefly about CPI. CPI was trending at 2.95%, but the 2% tax cap means you will never go over 2%. You can go below 2%, but you can't go above. So that 2% tax cap, that 2% allowable levy growth factor has to be multiplied at that point. And then you take out the budget year pilots. Budget year pilots mean the pilot's receivable amount that we expect to receive for the 25-26 school year. So we followed this whole equation to get to one number, which is our tax levy before exclusions. For the 23-24 school year in the far left column, that was $216,066,810. For the 25-26 school year, it's $220,605,748. The next section speaks specifically to exclusions. On the picture that I showed earlier, sort of that bottom section talks about how you calculate exclusions to the tax cap. That's the section from exclusions down. The first is tort, which means if you have a certain percentage of your budget where you might have litigation that's been settled and it's a certain percent of your budget, which is pretty sizable, you'd have a tort exclusion. You'll see that we don't have that. In addition, you have a capital tax levy for the current year. It means what we expect to spend on capital expenses. Those are both expenses to physically fix or renovate your facilities and any debt service associated with capital projects. So any projects that have been approved in the past, voter approved, those expenses will fall into that category. For the 23-24 school year, it was $9.3 million, and for the 25-26 school year, it's calculated at $11.7 million. I will note that those expenses will also deduct any building aid that we expect to receive from New York State. The next section is the pension contribution expense, meaning if either the teacher's retirement system or the employee's retirement system will have an increase of more than 2%, you can have an exclusion of some of those expenses. Neither one of those retirement systems are going over 2%, so you'll notice that in the 24-25 school year, we had a small exclusion amount of $29,000. But for the 23-24 and the 25-26 school years, we do not have an exclusion for any retirement contribution expenses. So at the end of the exclusions, you would add up the capital levy exclusions, any retirement system exclusions to get a total number. If you go, I wish I had a pointer. If you look at the total levy and before exclusion for 25-26 is $220,605,748. You then add in those exclusion expenses, right? And so you get to $232,356,332. That is our maximum allowable tax levy under current law for the tax cap equation. I will note, or you will note, that in the 23-24 school year, which speaks to the graph that Mr. Leal showed previously, our maximum allowable was 2.19%, but the actual tax levy was 0.98%, so that was under our maximum allowable. Last year was the first year post-COVID that the maximum allowable was 3.95% and the levy was 3.95%. And so in that far right column, our maximum allowable for next year is 0.33%, which equates to a little over $760,000. And so having said that, I will turn this back over to Mr. Leal to discuss revenues.
Thank you. So again, that number also is smaller or lesser than anticipated, and in adding that to the state aid number that we received, again, another like, okay, this is not excellent, so how do we proceed? Well, the other piece here then is to also look, what are all the other revenue streams that are coming in, and how does that play out to determine what the total dollar amount would be if we wanted to maintain all of our current programs moving forward. So on this slide under revenues, you'll see real property tax, and if you go straight across, again, the first avocado color was 23-24, 24-25, then 25-26, if you go to the far right, where that changes at 0.33%, basically the tax levy that Joy just spoke about, that would be the revenue of the $232,356,322. Underneath that, which is the third column in from the far right, then it's the pilots that we would receive, the payments in lieu of taxes for $6,009,276. Then sales tax related revenue for $5,400,000. Then charges for services such as health and rental property for $4,030,000. Miscellaneous, which is primarily interest, is $1,365,500. Then the state aid, which is what I shared with you in the original slide, which is $90,916,908. With an increase, so you'll just notice the increase if you go to the right, and I'm sorry I wasn't referencing the percent changes on the right-hand side. Other state aid, $7,160,652. Then a bit of federal aid for $946,062. And then an interfund transfer for from reserves for $500,000, which was for debt services. Interfund from the library, again, it's kind of the pass-through dollars. And then appropriated fund balance of $1,750,000 for a grand total of $350,668,762. So that is the number that we're looking at in terms of what it is that we would be able to receive as revenue. We're good there? Okay. What else do we need to take into consideration is what about our grant funds? How can we utilize these if they are available? As you know, ESSER came off the books at the end of 23-24, and so We worked without them this year. They are still not returning. Just want to let you know. We're actually in the middle of a conversation currently with the state in terms of our financing for those dollars. Then underneath that, you're going to see IDEA, which is dollars set aside for our students with disabilities. And then underneath that, you're going to see IDEA 6011 carryover. So carryover dollars are previous grant dollars that weren't expensed, and so they continue to carry over with you. But at some point, you have to use them. If you don't use them, they're like, well, then why do we give you the initial allocation to begin with? So we utilize those to cover the cost of some of our professionals. Those dollars do not continue to carry over because now they have been used, and then you just basically revert back to your base allocation. And you'll see the same thing with section 619 carryover for the 72,433. Underneath those, then you'll see a records management grant, which is basically a grant that HR is utilizing to update all the filing systems. So there is no true impact to us, but certainly making things much more efficient. Then dollars that we are anticipating for My Brother's Keeper, Title I, Title II, Title III. And I was asked to slow down last year and say, can you explain those just a bit? So I'll do that. So for Title I, basically it's our school improvement dollars, and those dollars are utilized in terms of what are our poverty numbers, how do we get those particular dollars, and then how do we distribute those across the system. Title IIA is supports preparing training, it's professional development. It could also help to lower class size. Then Title III is our ENL students, our immigrant students, Title III, Title IV. Also for students for academics, for intervention, for AIS services. So there's a Title III and then the Title IV, then the Teacher Center, and then the Universal Pre-Kindergarten. You'll notice that the number for 24-25 is the same as 25-26. And that's because we don't get our 25-26 numbers yet. And so we have to just make an assumption that we're going to get something similar, and then hope that we get a little bit more. Given the conversation, I think it was last week, they're like, hey, we're going to stop sending out federal dollars, kind of put us in a moment of shock and said, what does that mean for us in terms of the expenses for this school year? And now they're back online, but what does that mean for 25-26? Should we anticipate something? How do we? So that we, again, can continue to do what we need to do for our students. And then another thing to consider, that in conversations last year when we went around in the community and had small conversations, somebody brought up, or a couple of people actually at various places said, hey, can we talk about the reserves? What are the reserves? So we're actually displaying those so that it's very clear to the community as well what those reserves are, what those numbers are, and then we can talk a little bit more about what they're used for. You may recall that last year we went out for a proposition. We moved $10 million to support $2 million worth of local projects at varying campuses, and then also $8 million to set aside for the pool. So those dollars were depleted from the second line, but at the end of last year, we said we also want to establish another capital, because once you use that one, you can't go back and use it again. So that first capital line are the dollars that we moved into supporting the work that was approved by the voters. The second line that has no current dollar amounts at all is the capital one that we set up, so that if we do have additional dollars at the end of this school year, we have a place to put those dollars. Then if you work your way down, the different categories for workers' compensation, there's some money set aside for unemployment, debt service, and you'll notice they're under debt service. From 22-23, we went from around $14 million to $6,882,000. And it's noted here because it's already been planned that we're going to remove $2 million from that particular line at the end of this year, which was previously budgeted. Then there is a line for insurance, property loss, liability, And if I'm not mistaken, we added these on 2 years ago because we had not planned those as a system, and it was a time of flooding, and what are we doing with our insurance? And so that really forced us to take a look at how are we setting up our reserves. Then, of course, the tax certiorari dollar amount, which was $13,548,204 in 2023, to the current of $10,711,860. This particular number, again, I think we shared this last year. We are only able to maintain a certain dollar amount there. When I say it's 4 years, being able to pay on any of those expenses that need to be paid. And then any retirement contributions, employee benefits, and then future appropriations that for 24-25 we do not have at the moment. So we went from 52 million to 27 million respectfully. The number specifically is there. But that just goes to show that where we are with those funds. And to also illustrate that these dollars are already aside for specific purposes. So we can't use these funds to then backfill what the state did not give us in state aid. I wish we could, it just doesn't work that way. So while the monies are there, I want us to, as a community, understand these dollars are set aside for a particular reason. So we can't move, for example, any capital dollars for anything other than capital. Lots to take in, I know. It's very heavy. It's very heavy. This is just a summary. Did I go backwards? I did, I'm so sorry. Again, to just kind of recap a previous slide, we only took out the chunk that only speaks to our current revenue, and that specific number for 25-26 is that our available revenue would be $350,668,762. Now we have to ask the question, is that enough to maintain the current programming? So now we need to go back, look at all our current expenses. What are all the expenses associated with the increase to contracts, with transportation, any contractual obligation, et cetera, insurance. Now we can figure out what is that dollar amount and then figure out what the deficit is there, and then bring back to this community when we meet next week. Okay? That is the intent, but again, given the way in which the state aid was reported this year, again, you just saw that huge drastic difference. It would be irresponsible for us to come out and say, hey, these are the expenses we want, and then at the end say, this is what we want the tax levy to be. It needs to really be reversed. That being said, we're done with, but basically we're going to be done with this meeting momentarily. And then we still have to meet our legal obligations, which is to have the hearing and have the budget vote on May 20th. That is, we cannot move that particular date. Given that we're going to have to engage in some deeper conversation as a collective, we are actually proposing that we add 2 additional meetings, if possible, to give the community an opportunity to continue the dialogue. Because if we go too, we don't believe that it's appropriate to go fast through this process, and to give everybody an opportunity to digest, because people have asked for more transparency, and in doing so, we also have to give people time to be able to digest it. And so we will be as transparent as we can and want to make sure that there's enough time to stop, ask questions, get clarity, adjust as needed before we actually get to a point where we have to bring it out to the voters. So if that was the case, then this would be the series of meetings moving forward. And then, of course, please, 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 we want to hear from all stakeholders. We were sharing earlier with the principals this morning, last year and the year before, we were responding to emails, and a lot of folks did take us up on sending questions via email. And then some people stopped by the office and said, can we just sit down? Can you explain this piece to me? And we were able to do that as well. So whatever we can do to help manage this process, we would like to be part of that. That being said, this is how you can reach us, and I know that Dr. Reynolds has a few comments before any questions and discussion.
So I would like to thank my colleagues in the business office for walking us through this portion of our budget presentation. It's a lot to take in a short amount of time. I have to be very transparent in stating we didn't get enough money this year to do what we feel we need to do for our students. That's the bottom line. It's no one's fault. It's not mismanagement. So I want to be the first to say that to the public. We have a dollar amount, and I'm going to use round dollars in my explanation. So if we were using $100 million to run our budget this whole year, and every year we've gotten maybe $12 million or so, 12%, we anticipated having that 12% provided to us for next year. We were not provided that 12%. As a matter of fact, the 2% that you see represented in state aid and foundation aid is the bare minimum any school district received in the state, the bare minimum. There are other school districts that received way more than 2%, but no one received below 2%. So that was very shocking to us. Again, I want to state that I'm very grateful that we're not looking at a deficit in terms of the funds that we've received. We could have gotten less. If you keep in mind what happened to our neighbor Mount Vernon last year, I was very vocal about. Mount Vernon actually got less funding last year than they had the year before, and that's what we were advocating for. So as we've learned our lesson from last year, these are the numbers that are proposed now. We are still in conversation with our elected officials. We are still in conversation with the New York State Department of Education. We are still looking for some relief to this money that we currently have. I can stand before you with 95% credibility and state, as we move through this process, we won't go below these numbers that you see. This is what we are promised in this moment. But I will also stand before you and state that I am going to do everything in my power to advocate that we get additional funds to help to mitigate where we are currently. But keep in mind what we were discussing this time last year, the budget. I said that there is a fiscal cliff that we are approaching. It came a lot faster than any of us anticipated. That's where we currently are. If we have to take our instruction, our staffing, our programs, and roll them over to next year, we would have to cut a significant amount based on the money that we're receiving from the government without the help of our taxpayers. And I would never, never represent that we should burden our taxpayers to meet the needs of that type of a deficit. But there might be a request for some relief. So that is what we're currently working through. If you've learned anything about me, you know that I don't mince my words. I want you to understand what the real landscape is in real time. So this team has been very, very transformational in the way that we are looking at numbers, looking at dollars, but also looking at people, because at the end of the day, we know that it's the people in front of our children that are most important. So how do we marry the two? How do we bridge that gap? And that is a process that we're about to embark on now.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Reynolds, and thank you, team. Actually, I'm going to start because I have one question, two statements, and one proposal. My first question, it has to do with the slide you had on staff vacancies. And this is just a general question. Can you hear me?
No.
Oh, do those staff vacancies actually mean we are saving money because they're not filled?
The current vacancies are currently saving us money?
That's the question. Is it because we have vacancies, they're budgeted, but we're not actually paying out that funds? Are we getting any savings from that?
So the current vacancies are people who are not appointed to those positions, but there may be substitutes, there may be a teacher getting a 6-period assignment, there may be a leave replacement in place. So in summary, yes. However, there may be other expenses to make sure that the needs of students are being met when there is a vacancy.
And as it relates to administrative vacancies, those positions are still in existence and contracts. You have to negotiate with the union in order to eliminate positions. So the money has to be budgeted unless we are going to go through a process of eliminating positions.
Gotcha. No, that's what I thought. Boss. My two statements were, I do love that we are seeing an increase in pilot funds each year now, which is good. We're finally getting some movement on that front. I mean, I think it was like 48% increase from last year that we saw. I do want to point out that we did have conversations at our most recent finance committee meeting about our reserve funds and the need for the board and the team to start looking at what a future plan looks like to ensure that we are filling those funds and ensuring that we have some safety nets. And then my proposal that I want to bring to Dr. Reynolds is about our foundation aid increase and the need for advocacy on that front. And maybe the thought of putting together a plug and play email that we can send to our constituents, to our PTAs, to our unions to help us send it to our legislators, because we have some of the most powerful legislators in the state. I mean, we have Senator Mayer, Senator Fernandez, Assemblyman Otis, and Paulin, but we also have Andrea Stewart Cousins. So seeing how we can mobilize our community on that front to really impeach them, to let them know that we need these extra funds.
Thank you very much for those recommendations. Please let me be very clear. We are in conversation with Senator Mayer, with Senator Fernandez, and with Assemblyperson Paulin. So I don't want us to use that route yet until they have a clear understanding of what our financial landscape is and can do some advocacy that is organic. And then following that, we will start those exercises.
Thank you.
Please know, and this is a plug for our elected officials, they actually reached out to me. So I want to really thank them for their ability to reach out and to promise partnership on this.
Thank you so much for that. Ms. Lewis and Ms. Ross?
I'm just going to piggyback off of that, the emphasis on advocacy. Dr. Reynolds has been championing our needs to everyone that was just mentioned. And I also want the folks at home to know that Dr. Reynolds does not stand alone in advocacy. The New York State School Board Association, the Westchester Putnam School Board Association have also asked us board members what we find to be important, so that we can share with them our concerns to reinforce what our superintendent is advocating for. And so we also as a board are telling them that they need to look at the foundation aid formula and how those monies are allocated. And so the foundation aid formula is not just today, it's not just for this budget or just last year. It's been a long road to try and get the folks that are in power to change what we use on an annual basis. So we don't say advocacy in just a vacuum. There are peoples and places and policies that are in place that prohibit us from doing what we need to do for our best interest.
Thank you very much for that, Trustee Lewis. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that we have scheduled meetings with the superintendent and a board member and one board member, so they don't want us to come in and attack them, right? They don't want they want the numbers to be pretty manageable, but we will be meeting virtually with our elected officials. So those meetings are scheduled to take place because this advocacy effort is not a single filed into me. It is really a group effort. So thank you very much for mentioning that.
Ms. Ross?
Thank you again for just the transparency that you guys are providing, the amount of information that you're showcasing, and so early in the year. So thank you for just making such big progress, I'd say, over the last couple of years, at least that I've been on the board. And so I really appreciate the amount of thought and effort that's going into it. And it allows us as board members as well as the community to just be much more informed and understanding, and also sort of thinking about all the ways that we can mobilize, right, and really try to help advocate. That said, I have a few questions. So, Dr. Reynolds, you mentioned the 2% aid that the increase is the base. Is there a particular reason why ours was so low this year versus prior years?
I'm trying not to sound sophomoric when I say it, but we don't know. It's just what's provided to us by the state. It's almost like, I'm going to use this allegory. It's like a child waiting for their what is it that you get?
A treat, perhaps?
When you give your children money. Oh, allowance? Thank you, allowance. I'm that far removed. But, honestly, we do feel like children just waiting to get our allowance, and it can go up or down with no rhyme or reason that we can predict. So I'm sorry that that answer came out that way, but that's the reality of it.
Got it. And and I guess also from the federal level, the federal government is very unpredictable at the moment. And so I guess my question is, when usually would we find out what aid that we are getting from the federal government, when those grants, like when would that usually be? What time of year?
That's usually in the spring, when those applications come out to be completed. And in addition, some of the federal aid that we have on the previous slide was Medicaid, so that reimbursement may or may not look the same as it has in the past.
And I guess as we're putting together this budget, I believe that we should really pay attention to those federal aid funds and have our plan A's and B's and C's, because who knows what will come down? I mean, at this point, it seems very unpredictable.
Yes, that's a major part of the conversations that will be held with the board. All of the different scenarios that we will present to you in terms of trying to be predictive in what could happen in a doomsday scenario. I don't know any other word to use.
And then I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it nonetheless. Are there any savings that we might get this year that we could roll into next year?
If there are, then yes. I mean, in terms of moving them into the reserves, and then, do you adjust it so that it becomes part of the appropriated fund balance? But again, you're not going to be able to take these year's dollars and use them next year. So they got to go into the reserves for a particular purpose, right?
Right. And are there any creative reserves that we could create that could go into next year potentially?
It is very difficult to create a creative reserve. I know exactly what you're thinking, but please understand, the practice really is for the school district to encumber funds in the actual year and encumber those funds earlier. And for the past 2 years, we've been encumbering our funds earlier and earlier to help in this type of an effort. Next year, we plan on encumbering I'm going to tell on myself, on encumbering our funds a little bit earlier than we did this year, just for that general purpose. But it is very difficult to establish a reserve just for a general purpose use. So there are a lot of laws that are very stringent in terms of how you can establish a reserve and what the reserve can be used for. But we are working very closely with our tax lawyers in order to try to go down that type of a path.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Brooks?
Thank you all so much. I echo Ms. Ross's sentiment. It's really sobering but important information for us to be digesting. And I think, Mike, this is really more a comment for the general public, which is we are really eager to engage with you. And I think adding additional dates on the calendar, we have many dates already on the calendar as well, that's really an opportunity for folks to share with us their thoughts about how we might approach various scenarios, recognizing we don't have all the information. We may not have all the information early in the process, but just to get a temperature of where our community is and where their priorities are will be really valuable. Obviously, that's our responsibility also as board members, and I encourage all of us to talk to folks in our community, but also for the community really to understand more than ever when difficult decisions need to be made, we want to hear from everyone about where their priorities are and where they'd like us to go as a district. So thank you for offering those dates, and I really am encouraging folks to stay up late with us as we do these various budget sessions over the next month or two.
Vice President Barrios Brooks, thank you very much for that. And I must also inform the community that you may not realize the power that you have in this budget process. The reason why we put, and if you could go back to our touch point, the slide right before. The reason why, no, keep, yep, no, one more. The reason why we have these points of communication is to empower you as a community to ask us questions in real time. These questions that are posed to us actually help to form what our presentation will be the next time we present to the board and to the public. So your questions can help to develop a deeper level of understanding for others. And if you have the question, I can guarantee you someone else has the question as well.
Do any of the,
While there's a lull, I just wanted to also mention to the board, I have to commend my partners, firstly, Mayor Ramos Herbert, as well as our city manager, Mr. Will Melendez, and the partnership with the city. We are now getting response and partnership in financing from the city unlike ever before. So I'll state it this way. A part of the reason why we're in a little bit of a dire strait is because we're actually getting our pilot funding the way we're supposed to. So because there was such a large increase in the difference between what we were getting in the past and us getting what we're supposed to get, it actually affected our tax cap levy, right? But that's a good problem to have. That means that we're getting what we're supposed to from the city in real time. And I also want to thank the city council for voting to moving the collection of our taxes, our school taxes, a month earlier. So please be prepared for that. The reason for that request was because every year we were running in a deficit for the opening of school because we collected taxes a month too late. So basically, because people do not work during the summer and they don't get paid, we didn't have enough money to, this sounds scary, we didn't have enough money to pay individuals when they returned to work in September. That is why we had to go out and ask for a tax anticipatory note. So by moving the tax collection up by a month, it will prevent the school district from having to go out with such regularity in requesting a tax anticipatory note, and that keeps us from having to pay the interest on that loan. So this is a way of saving money in the long run.
Thank you, Dr. Reynolds. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, colleagues, we can go back to our seats.
It's not plugged into anything? No. Oh, okay.
The next item on our discussion item is a first reading to sunset a policy, which is policy number 9135. So it turns out that we are one of the only school districts in New York State that has a policy about where we sit up here on the dais. Now, I know it sounds very like, it's something so little, but we are going to sunset that policy so that we're not constrained by policy. So basically today is just the first reading where we will sunset the policy of where we sit, and then next meeting we will vote to sunset that policy. And then the next discussion item was 6.04 about our resolution, but we kind of talked about that before. Does any of my colleagues have anything else they want to talk about that resolution? Okay, great. That is on the agenda for tonight. So next up is liaison reports. Do any of my colleagues have any liaison reports they would like to mention? I will just say that as a member of the New Rochelle Fund for Educational Excellence Board, tomorrow is their annual gala, 6 o'clock at the Surf Club. If you haven't gotten tickets already, I highly recommend you do. It's going to be a very great party, as well as some of the best silent auction items that I have seen in a while. Yeah. Seeing no more liaison reports, we are going to move into public comment. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to convene into the public comment period of the meeting. The Board of Education adopted policy 1230 in April 2022 to ensure all members of the public had the opportunity to speak at both of our board meetings each month. We believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a discussion. Accordingly, understand that the board will not respond to your concerns and questions tonight. We take your concerns and questions seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if need be. We will, however, respond to your questions and concerns at a future meeting or have the proper staff member get back to you at the appropriate time. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments or questions about school personnel and students. Please know, however, that we take personal concerns very seriously. On these matters, we'd ask you to go through the appropriate administrative channels. Finally, we recognize that our nation and our community are polarized on a number of issues. That said, we want our school board meetings to serve as an example to our students that members of our school board and members of our community can deal with controversial issues in a civil manner and demonstrate mutual respect for one another. In that spirit, we will insist that all speakers and members of the audience maintain civility and respect for any divergent views that others possess. We ask that speakers please address their comments to the board directly rather than the audience. In the unlikely event the meeting becomes unruly, the board will recess the meeting and return once order has been restored. Finally, I want to remind everyone that you may submit written comments to the board in lieu of speaking during the public comment period if you so choose. Tonight, we've set aside 45 minutes for public comment, where each speaker who has signed up before 3:30 today has 3 minutes to speak. If a person requests to speak after 3:30, speakers may sign up in person at the meeting with the clerk and will be afforded the opportunity to speak during the public comment period if time permits. Our first speaker of the night is Miss Lita Kushner. Lita Kushner. Not seeing anyone by that name. Next up is Mr. Vincent Malfitano.
Hello, how you doing? On the budget thing, let's not be too worried about change in Washington. Sometimes change is good. If all the money allocated to the Department of Education was actually given to the states rather than swallowed up through a massive federal bureaucracy before it gets here, maybe we'd actually get more money. So let's not be so pessimistic and negative. Change sometimes is good. Let's work with change. Talking about change, there's a resolution tonight about the superintendent. I called about it and asked about it. It says there's an agreement that you're going to be voting on between the superintendent and the board. Please explain to the community what that is before you vote on it. I don't know what it is. It wasn't in the agenda explained. Is it a new contract? Is it a contract extension? What is it? I think the community ought to know what it is before you vote on something of such importance. I'm happy the superintendent's going to be around for a long time. That's okay with me. But it's never good to hide things from the public. So please, before you vote on it, Mr. President of the board, explain it to the community. The other thing is, I've been asking about this gender-affirming policy from the state of New York. And I emailed the superintendent, who was nice enough to respond to me. I said, if my 12-year-old son tells his counselor that he wants to change his gender and his first name, but he doesn't want his parents to know about it, which is apparently part of the state guidelines, that the state says that's okay, and that I could be denied that knowledge, and then actually recommends that the school would lie to me as a parent about my child's name. I'm asking, is the district okay with that policy? Are we following that? And the superintendent was nice enough to respond and say, well, we handle that on a case-by-case basis. That sounds like a lawyer talk to me. How about we just talk person to person? Are we following that policy recommended by the state of New York? That if a child as young as 12 says, I want to be a girl instead of a boy, I didn't tell my parents, I don't want to tell them, don't tell them, you'll go along with that? The community needs to know about their children being safe. Yes, I'd like to know. When I call the school and ask about my son, are they going to use my son's name to me? But in school, they're calling him Barbara. Don't you think I deserve an answer to that question straight out tonight? Are you guys going by that policy, the state of New York, that permits you to lie to me as a parent, or not? Case by case doesn't cut it.
Thank you, Mr. Malfitano. Would anybody else like to sign up for public comment tonight? We got Ms. Silva and then Ms. Carl.
Good evening. My name is Emma Silva, and I'm here tonight as a proud member of the community and district employee, standing in strong support of the resolution affirming the City School District of New Rochelle as a welcoming district for all of our students. This resolution is not just words on paper, it is a statement of our values as a community. It reaffirms that every child, no matter their background or immigration status, deserves to learn in an environment free from fear and discrimination. It upholds the belief that our schools are places of safety, belonging, and opportunity. New Rochelle has always been a city that embraces diversity. Our school reflects the rich cultural backgrounds, languages, and traditions that makes this community so special. But a truly inclusive community is not just one that celebrates diversity, it also protects it. By passing this resolution, we are ensuring that all our students, regardless of their circumstances, have equal access to an education without the threat of disruption. As a community, we cannot allow fear or uncertainty to interfere with a child's ability to learn. No child should have to worry about their safety or the safety of their family while sitting in a classroom. And no parent should have to fear sending their children to school. This is not just the right thing to do, it is our duty and our moral imperative. Schools should also be places of stability and hope, not anxiety and exclusion. I urge the board to stand with students and families. I urge my fellow community members to continue supporting our schools and fostering a welcoming and supportive environment. And I urge each and every one of us to remember that education is the foundation of opportunity, and it must remain open to all. Tonight we have a chance to make a powerful statement about who we are as a community, and let's choose to be a community that stands for inclusion, for safety, and for the right of every child to learn and to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Silva. Ms. Carl?
Lorraine Carl, 43 Belmont Avenue. Last month I attended the planning board meeting, and I wanted the board to know that Twining development has been passed. So we're now going to have a city within a city. And also, they could not tell the planning board the number of children that will be coming out of that development, which to me is ridiculous. And we're also getting 3 more developments, 2 28-story buildings on Main and North. Another one on Bridge Street and Huguenot, another 28-story development. And then there's one that's going to be on Center and Main. And none of these developments will be told the planning board how many students or children will be in these buildings. But I am very worried about the development on Center and Main, because many of our students from Isaac walk home that way. So I'm asking the board to please make sure the developer protects the students when the buildings that are there that will be torn down and when they start building this development. I spoke to the developer privately at the planning board meeting, and I asked him to please get in touch with the principal of Isaac, because Isaac is the biggest walking community in our district. So we should be protecting our students. Thank you. Oh, and Will, when they come to the IDA for a pilot program, make sure you find out how many students are coming out of all of these developments before they get their pilot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carl. Would anybody else like to sign up for public comment tonight? Sorry, give me 1 second. So, Mr. Malfitano, thank you for pointing that out. We are very happy to announce that tonight the Board of Education is voting on extended Superintendent Corey Reynolds' contract through June 30th, 2029 for a 5-year extension. The Board of Education will be sending an email to the community shortly, later on this week, to make that announcement. But one, we're just very excited and grateful for Dr. Reynolds' leadership and commitment to our students and our community. He assumed leadership of this district at a pivotal time. We were coming out of COVID. We had Superintendent Raymond for 18 months. But his leadership at this time, guiding our district through post-pandemic learning and laying the foundation for this new era that we are going into. So I would like to publicly thank you, Dr. Reynolds, and applaud. And we're super excited to have you for not just the stability, but for your guidance that you bring to our district. So thank you very much. All right. Do you want to say anything? No? Okay. All right, perfect. So the next item, okay, yeah.
So this caught me off guard in terms of having to say anything. Firstly, I would like to really express my gratitude and my honor to the Board of Education for trusting me to work with you in partnership of doing what's right for our students. I am committed to New Rochelle for as long as you'll have me. I still have my sign up in my office that says welcome home. So for those people in HR who provided that sign to me, a part of my interview process coming in as Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources was I stated I was looking for a home. And I do feel that New Rochelle is my home. And I'm ready to fight beside you to do what's right for our students. So thank you very much for this honor and this privilege.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Reynolds. So the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda personnel resolutions. Colleagues, can I get a motion and a second to approve consent agenda for personnel resolutions, number 25-261, 1 through 2, number 25-262, 1 through 1, number 25-263, 1 through 10, number 25-264, 1 through 6, and number 25-265, 1 through 14, according to the recommended action for each item.
So moved, Williams.
Second, Lewis.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up on our agenda is the consent agenda general resolutions. Colleagues, can I get a motion and a second to approve consent agenda for general resolutions number 25-266 through number 25-280 according to the recommended action for each item?
So move, Clayton Fernandez.
Second, Lewis.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next meeting will be next Tuesday, February 11th at Columbus Elementary School. Colleagues, we are not adjourning the meeting now. We are going to go back into an executive session. And when we come out of the executive session, we will not be making any motions. We will be immediately adjourning the meeting. So colleagues, can I get a motion and second? Motion and second to go immediately back into executive session?
So moved, Williams.
Second, Castellano Minaya.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Good night, everyone.